Losing Peny Boone to the transfer portal is not ideal, but Louisville fans, it's not time to panic. We'll explain why on today's episode of the Locked On Louisville podcast. Stay tuned.
You are Locked On Louisville, your daily podcast on the Louisville Cardinals. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey, what's going on, everyone? Happy Wednesday. Welcome into another episode of the Locked On Louisville podcast. I'm your host, Dalton Pence. Today's episode brought to you by Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use the code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off of your first purchase. As always, want to take this time to personally thank you all for making us your first listen of the day. Just a reminder, the Locked On Louisville podcast is free on all streaming services, 5 days a week, your team every day. Peny Boone, presumed starting running back next season for the Cardinals, has entered the transfer portal. Not ideal, but we're going to explain why on today's show, why Cardinal fans should not panic and why the expectations still remain high for the running backs room. Jaylin Alderman, one of the starting linebackers from last year, also entering the portal on Wednesday. Again, another situation where Cardinal fans should not panic. We'll explain why. And then to conclude the show, we will dive into a weekly mailbag segment. So a lot of portal talk on the show. The portal officially opened back up for college football on April 16th on Tuesday. We started to get rumblings of certain players entering the portal days leading up to Tuesday. Obviously, Louisville was a school that was involved in some of those rumors. And I'll be honest, it has been wild to see how quickly rumors spread like wildfire on social media, regardless if they are true or not. People don't take the time to determine whether the information is legit before absolutely running with it. And it has created some narratives around Louisville. So let's go ahead and get a couple things out of the way. Number one, Louisville's NIL checks are not bouncing. Number two, the Louisville football program is not in turmoil. Cardinal fans, I think every fan across the country has to understand that in the current day of the transfer portal, there is going to be roster movement all the time. Players will come, players will go. You know, rosters will fluctuate all year long. And no roster is exempt from that. We are seeing starting caliber players enter the portal from some of the top programs around the country. And it's sort of the norm now with how the transfer portal and NIL have changed the college landscape. It's happening all across the country. That's what I am trying to get across to the fans in this episode, is that it's not ideal what's happening. Don't make this out to be me telling you you shouldn't be concerned. I'm just telling you not to panic. There's a difference between the two. Also, the Cardinals had 91 scholarship players going into this portal window. You can only have 85. So by default, Louisville has needed to lose some players. They're going to add some more players. You're going to see players that are not happy with where they are in the depth chart in spring ball, and they're going to enter the portal. And Louisville will benefit from that and bring some other players in. It will happen to all schools around the country. But no, I don't believe that NIL checks are bouncing. Some people believe that that was the case with Peny Boone. His agent came out and said it was not. It wasn't anything to do with Louisville or the Brohms. It was more so just that, this wasn't the right fit for him from a football standpoint. And hey, it is what it is. I respect the decision. We wish Peny the best of luck going forward, and hopefully he has a ton of success at his next destination. But here's the thing. It's not ideal. Peny Boone is a fantastic player. Rushed for 1,400 yards, 15 touchdowns last year, was the MAC Offensive Player of the Year for a reason. But this loss reminds me a ton of losing Ruben Owens last offseason, decommitting from the high school class. When Ruben Owens decommitted, people were like, man, this guy definitely could go be a star, and he's not going to be here. But hey, at the end of the day, we still feel good about our running back room. Pretty much the same situation here. Just insert different names into the equation. Peny Boone, in my opinion, could have been one of the best running backs in the ACC. Some believe he was one of the best running backs in the country coming back this season. I'm not going to argue with that because he has a ton of potential. 6'1", like 230, 240 pounds. He's fantastic. However, I still feel good about where Louisville's running back room stands currently. I'm not even sure that you need to add anyone to that room. I know Louisville has shown interest in a couple of guys, but you have, in my opinion, 4 guys next season that can all see somewhat of significant roles. It begins with Maurice Turner, the one of the 2 returning guys from last year's team. Turner was basically the third option in the backfield behind Jawar Jordan and Isaac Guerendo. Turned in a season with 284 yards and 1 touchdown, had some moments of brilliance throughout the year. 5'10" native of Georgia, had 12 for 81 against Pittsburgh, but mainly wasn't really relied upon a ton. I don't think that that's an indication of his skill set, but more so just how good Jawar and Guerendo both were. Turner has the explosiveness to rip off big gains. Does well operating between the tackles despite being, only 5'10", 180 pounds, but extremely quick, agile, fast, that allows him to hit the hole and get through to that next level of the defense. I think he is going to be in that rotation with Miami transfer Don Chaney Jr., who 5'10", 210 pounds, had a career season this past year, 478 yards and 2 touchdowns. He will need to stay healthy. If Don Chaney stays healthy, then I think he's going to have a fantastic season. He has played in this conference before. I think he's played his whole college career in this conference. I think that he is a player that will be relied upon to, at the very least, play an Isaac Guerendo-esque level of a role to where he is the second guy getting over 10 touches a game, but operating a ton on the goal line, short yardage situations. Needless to say, I'm not really worried about a Maurice Turner, Don Chaney Jr. backfield. I think that there is, a lot of promise there. Don't forget, Texas Tech transfer quarterback Tyler Shuck is going to be stealing some of those carries for himself in the read option, design quarterback runs. I think that we're going to see Louisville throw the ball more this year because of Shuck's skill set, but those are the 2 main guys. Other players, Kewan Brown, the redshirt freshman from Atlanta who had his best game against Murray State last season. I think he's going to be relied upon in that sort of Maurice Turner role from this past year. 5'10", 205 pounds from the 404. I liked what I saw against Murray State. Granted, it was only Murray State, but he was a player coming out of Miami, coming out of Atlanta, that a lot of people believed was a diamond in the rough type prospect. I think that he has the potential to be another goal line option, an option in the red zone, short yardage situations, and it would not surprise me to see a game or 2 this season where he has the majority of the carries. I think that he has the potential to be very, very good. The other option, this is the most intriguing one. Isaac Brown, 4-star signee from the South Florida area. Brian Smith, Locked On Podcast Network national recruiting analyst, told me back in, I want to say the late fall and the winter, it probably was early National Signing Day. He said, watch out for Isaac Brown because the guy is absolutely incredible. He was a track star in high school. I've heard through the grapevine that he is one of, if not the fastest guy on the team, and is going to be a player that it's going to be really tough to keep him off of the field for Louisville, whether it be certain plays that are designed to get him the ball, but he's going to be a very special player. He's about 5'9", 190 pounds, lightning quick, fast as can be, needs to be better in terms of ball security, but with the ball in his hands is absolutely electric. I think this season you could see a game or 2 to where he can absolutely take over a game. I think he is sort of the X factor in this room with Peny Boone, the opportunities just really wasn't there from a number standpoint for Brown. But when you lose Peny Boone, you lose those theoretical snaps and carries that Baby Bus would get. You then open up the option to differentiate those and disperse them between the four that we are currently talking about. I have high hopes for this room. Losing Peny Boone is not ideal, but I still expect a ton from the running back room. Two things can be true at one time. I believe them to be true in this situation. I think that you could add another guy to the mix if you wanted to, and I could see both ways. I could see where you could stand pat and say, no, I like the room we have. We're good. I could also see the situation where you think, no, I want some more insurance because we rotate guys in and out, and we want as many, healthy guys that can play at this level as we can. And I'm like, okay, that's fine as well. So I am intrigued to see who rises to the occasion. There were some rumblings that maybe Peny Boone wasn't number one on the depth chart. I can't speak to the confirmation on that. I mean, it was early on in spring ball. I mean, the spring game hasn't even happened yet, so I don't put too much stock into that. But I will put stock into the seasons that Maurice Turner and Don Chaney Jr. are likely to have. I think that they're going to be very successful this season for the Louisville Cardinals. So once again, we're going to reiterate the term, do not panic. It's okay. The same is going to apply for this next roster move. Louisville lost a potential starting linebacker, Jaylin Alderman, to the portal. And again, same situation applies. Not ideal. However, do not panic. We'll go a little bit more in depth after I tell you about our friends over at Monopoly Go. I've told you, I'm a very competitive person. I have a competitive side like we all do. My competitive side is a big fan of Monopoly Go. I'm sure you've heard of it. It's been downloaded over 150 million times. It's a great twist on Monopoly where you can play or not one, but hundreds of Monopoly boards in crazy locations, building up amazing cities that bring you big money. The best part for me is that I can charge rent on my properties, but I can also heist my friends' riches on their boards. The leaderboards show me who the biggest Monopoly tycoon is. It's not just my competitive side that loves it. You can team up with friends and people all around the world in time tournaments to earn huge rewards. Get in on the game today and join your friends. Download Monopoly Go now, free on the App Store or Google Play. Cardinal fans, thanks again for making Locked On Louisville your first listen today. Just a reminder, it was released today. The Locked On NFL mock draft is available now. Find the ultimate 6-episode series on Locked On NFL Draft to hear what the local Locked On experts are picking for every NFL franchise, with live reactions from local college football experts and even the fantasy football angle. The Locked On NFL Draft is available now on the Locked On NFL Draft on YouTube and wherever you get your podcasts. Another situation that's not ideal, but it's not a means to panic. Potential starting linebacker Jaylin Alderman decided to enter the portal officially on Wednesday evening, honestly, about an hour before I was set to record this show. Jaylin is a guy that has played a ton of football here over the past couple seasons. He was fourth on the team with 62 total tackles this year, recruited out of high school as a safety, and then transitioned to linebacker. Played 2021 as a true freshman, not a ton in 2022, and then 2023 he had a breakout season. The 6'1" native from Valdosta, Georgia, was the leader in some key plays over the past couple seasons, most notably the pick six in the latter part of the game against Central Florida in 2021, the pick six that took the Cardinals from the jaws of defeat to the triumph of victory. It was one of the more iconic moments at Cardinal Stadium. I was there. It was such a unique atmosphere at that game. And It was key that Louisville won that game. But regardless, Alderman made some big-time plays, especially in the absence of Monty Montgomery that year. This past season, replacing Montgomery and Momo Sonogo, he and TJ Quinn did a good job, holding down the fort at linebacker. Jaylin Alderman was a potential starter this season. He was a guy that I believe was going to start alongside of TJ Quinn again. But him entering the portal is an indication of one of two things, in my opinion. Number one, there's another school out there or a couple schools that are offering more NIL money and maybe a better opportunity. Or option two, maybe his starting spot wasn't guaranteed on the depth chart. Regardless of the situation, same thing with Peny Boone. No ill will towards Jaylin. Wish him the best of luck. Hope he has a very successful year at his next destination. But again, I am extremely encouraged by the players in the linebacking core for the Cardinals. Now, I could see a situation due to numbers where Louisville decides to go to the portal to get another linebacker because you did lose Jackson Hamilton. Excuse me. You lost some more players from that position to the portal to where linebacker was sort of slim, but you felt decent. But losing a player like Jaylin might mean that you go back to the portal and get another linebacker. I would expect TJ Quinn to be one of the starters yet again for the Cardinals. TJ was the team's leader in tackles with 91. And I think with another year under his belt, he is going to be an all ACC caliber player. However, I would expect a couple players to step up in Alderman's absence, and I think that they're going to play pretty well. First of all, I think that Stanquan Clark at one point in this upcoming season was going to secure a starting spot. I think that Stanquan is that good. Many sort of echo those sentiments, and it was just a matter of when and not if Stanquan became the every down linebacker. It could have been already. I mean, there were people in spring ball that raved about the versatility and, how much better he looks between now than when he was playing in his freshman season. And I would expect Stanquan to definitely continue to get more comfortable with the position and get to a spot to where he's feeling pretty good. There's another player transfer from, I think it's Jackson State. Actually, no, it's not Jackson State because it's Texas A&M. He went from Jackson State to Texas A&M. It's Geronte Davis. Didn't get a ton of time for the Aggies this season. It was a crowded defensive room, especially at linebacker with Edger and Cooper and some other players. But Geronte Davis is a veteran guy that I would expect to see a good amount of snaps moving forward for this Louisville defense. I'm really, really excited for the players in the position because, look, I think that there's a lot of talent. And losing Alderman, it's not ideal, but still you've got a good amount of talent. So I'm intrigued. There's also some hybrid players that will likely play on the outside but could slide into the inside at inside linebacker. I think that TJ Capers is still probably an edge rusher, in my opinion. I'm not necessarily so sure that he's ever going to be an inside linebacker at the college level. So I think inside or edge probably makes the most sense for him. You go down the line, there are a couple of different players. Tamari McDonald is probably more of a safety than he is a true linebacker, but will play on the outside. Same could potentially be said for Blake Ruffin, playing in the box and just continuing to go down. I look for Antonio Watts to also maybe play a little bit more inside. The 6'2" junior had some really solid moments at the end of last season, and I would expect for him to see that role increase, especially with Ben Perry still at that spot as well. So ultimately, it wouldn't surprise me to see the Cardinals go back to the portal and try to get another player at the position sort of as insurance for the team if someone were to go down with injury, which we saw last year, some key injuries, but thankfully Louisville had the depth to sort of mitigate some of that loss, but still you need overall quality depth. So interested to see how Louisville responds to this. But again, not ideal. Do not panic. It's okay. You're going to see players leave. You're going to see players come in. It's the status, the state of college football as it is today in the transfer portal, sports in general. So 2 losses that are not good, but I think that Louisville can get past both of those losses. And we'll continue to talk about players coming and going as we get more information. And tomorrow's episode will be more so back to the college basketball portal. But before we do that, did want to slide a weekly mailbag segment into the show. There have been some great questions that I don't want to turn away from, and I want to answer these. So before we do that, however, I'm going to tell you about our friends over at Yahoo Finance. Let's get straight to the point. You want to grow your portfolio to deal with the rising costs of inflation, to pay off your debt or your mortgage, pretty much anything standing in the way of you in financial freedom, right? With Yahoo Finance, you can get access to the news, data, and tools that you need in order to help reach that financial freedom. For more than 25 years, Yahoo Finance has been the brand behind every great investor. They are the #1 finance destination, producing a holistic look at the financial news cycle, including breaking news, original editorial perspectives, analyst ratings, independent research, customizable charts, and so much more. For comprehensive financial news and analysis, visit the brand behind every great investor at yahoofinance.com. The #1 financial destination, yahoofinance.com. Again, that's yahoofinance.com. Some great questions that you all have entered into this edition of the Weekly Mailbag. If you have a question you want answered for next week, be sure to submit it in the comments below on YouTube. My Twitter handle is actually in the video part of this on YouTube. You can send that to my message box. My DMs are open even to non-followers. So if you have a question you want to answer, be sure to ask away. But there are 5 really good questions that I wanted to dive into on this episode of the show. And hopefully we'll sort of give some clarity on what's going on with Louisville sports. First question goes back to the basketball side of things. It is, with so many players being reached out to by Louisville, I'm scared that the Cardinals are not putting their eggs into the – okay, this is worded weird. I'm scared that Louisville is not putting enough eggs into the right basket. Okay, into the right basket. So basically the question is Louisville going after too many players? No. You had to flip your whole roster. You need 13 players. You have 4 of them now, but you still have 9 spots to fill. Players are going to start committing quickly. Unfortunately, time is not your friend in this situation. So you have to reach out to many players. You have to recruit a good amount of players. There's multiple players on campus this weekend, because Pat Kelsey understands, to flip this roster, you have to get players on visits and you have to prioritize them. You can prioritize players even when you're recruiting a good amount. So I would say yes. Maybe if you had like 10 commitments and you only needed 3, then you could be more selective. But you need 9 more players on next year's team. And you don't have any high school players coming in at the moment. So, no, I think it's not a situation where I feel like Louisville is spreading themselves too thin, so to speak. I like this question. This question is probably my favorite one. I like these types of questions that give me the options. This question is, if you could pick 3 players that Louisville is realistically being rumored to be involved with to join next year's team, who would it be? That's a very good question because it really makes you think. I'm going to start with Jaden Quaitons, 5-star freshman. I think that, having 2 years to play before he can go to the NBA, it would be huge for Louisville. He's a very, very talented freshman, 6'9", 230 pounds, 7'3" wingspan. I like the potential there. I also would like to add Trey Townsend from Oakland, 6'6" forward, do-it-all type guy. Was a star for Oakland who led that team in 4 statistical categories, and I think would fit what Louisville wants to do in this specific scheme from Pat Kelsey. And then I would also probably say Dante Maddox, the Toledo transfer, led that team in scoring. Close to a 40% three-point shooter, volume guy that can lead an offense. So for me, those would be my 3 that I would go with. I also wouldn't mind Corin Johnson from Washington. Boobie Miller from Wake Forest makes some sense as well. So those 2 would probably be my my picks for this particular hypothetical. The next is the final college basketball question. Who do you think will be the next Louisville commit? That's a very good question because it could really be anyone. I think probably, in my opinion, because you have to think about who's visiting now, who's, potentially committing over the weekend, the guys that are going to be on campus. Oh man, this is a tough one because there are a couple different ways you can go with this. Dante Maddox, I believe, is going to commit on the 21st, which is Sunday. So that would, I guess, make some sense, as to why he could be the guy. I have a feeling it could be one of the guys that's going to be on campus this week. It could be like a Boubacar Traore from Long Beach State, just because he's gotten his official on Thursday. So I don't know. I'm personally, I'm going to say Dante Maddox, but I don't feel great about that. If it's not him, I could see it being Davin Cosby, transfer from Alabama, played at Word of God, where now assistant coach Thomas Carl was his athletic director early on in his career. So Davin Cosby, maybe Dante Maddox. Those would be my guesses, but no inside information. Going to the next side of things, are you concerned with the Louisville baseball team? Yeah, I would say that I am. The pitching is just really not all that great. The bats do what they can, but when the pitching is giving up the runs that they are, it's not ideal. I mean, they got beat handedly to Kentucky. They're 21-15. They might make the ACC tournament, but the NCAA tournament might not necessarily be realistic. So something's got to change this offseason in terms of the transfer portal outlook and, just revamping this entire pitching staff. So, I'm not feeling great about it. It just kind of is what it is at this point. But, I am worried about the team. Last question is to the football side of things. Do you feel like this Louisville program has hit its peak at 10 wins, that I'm not necessarily so sure that any of the rosters that Louisville will put together over the next couple of years will be able to compete with that? I mean, I'm not worried about it, really. I think that Louisville's NIL is legit. I mean, a couple players leaving is par for the course in college sports, so I'm not really worried. They won 10 games this year, but wait for Brohm to get his guys in, and I'm not worried at all, really. I think that Brohm is going to take Louisville to new heights. So I don't really know where that question was going to go to, but no, I'm not worried at all. So that is going to wrap up today's episode of the show. We will discuss who's on campus on tomorrow's episode. Be sure to tune into that. That's going to wrap up today's show. We'll see you right back here tomorrow. Go Cards.